one thing we wanted to talk about is the new certifications that have come out from Adobe. You did comment on subject matter expert and how a subject matter expert is different from a regular expert. And I still don't understand what the difference is, but let's just review the main changes. And there is 8 certifications now in Adobe. The first one is the Magento Commerce Business Practitioner, which was the Magento Solution Specialist in the past. And that would be the general one for merchants or for people that work in project management. Would be a great one to get that.
Yeah, well, I mean that certification is, you know, I mean it's anyone who, I mean, I think anyone who is a professional using Magento, who is not a developer, should really be aspiring to get that certification. And you know, that demonstrates that you know the product, you understand the e-commerce, you understand the architecture of Magento. You don't have to be an expert in the architecture. Stress that. You just need to understand the you know, the core principles of the architecture and understanding the difference between cloud and on-premises and commerce edition versus open source. And so all of these things, that particularly if you're working in an agency, but also that is, like you say, you know, the project manager, the account manager, people who liaise between the customer and the customer and the developer. You know, that's the qualification they should really have. And I would argue that it's probably the broadest in the sense that it's probably one of the hardest qualifications to go for, because I think with a developer qualification, there's a lot of you know, you should understand the methodology and you know, things that you're going to come across as far as how Magento is built. But with the solution specialist, business practitioner, commerce business practitioner, you've got a much broader areas of subjects that you need to cover. So but I think getting it is definitely you know, kind of proves that you must have a certain degree of Magento knowledge, and it should be reassuring to your customers then as well.
Yeah, and I think the key there too is you don't have to know how to code, but you'd have to know where the difference is when you should know how to code.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, oh, this should be coded and this shouldn't be coded. You don't have to know how to do the coding.
And it's knowing things like, where you should be looking for an extension versus where you need to customize it. And you're never going to know all of those examples, but you should have you know, by going through that process, you have the intuition to know where that needs, where you need to do research into that. But yeah, I'm running a study group on it at the moment, which is still a Magento certified solution specialist study group, even though it's for the business commerce practitioner.
I think a good point there is the solution specialists would help the developers understand part of that coding piece, but they also should be able to guide the merchant on what would be coded and what should just be bought from the marketplace. And I think a great interview with somebody at an agency would be, let's say you have 8 or 10 project managers on your team. Does every single project manager understand every single part of Magento so they can tell the merchant that this part is an extension, or this part needs to be custom coded, or this part's built in? I mean, it is really complicated. And I think that, you know, certainly a business practitioner should know the bulk of that, but just by describing that those 3 big buckets of things that could happen on your site, it is really complicated and does lend a lot of value to a merchant.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, for some merchants, it would probably be valid for them to go through that certification as well. You know, if they're particularly larger merchants, to have that expertise in-house and to have that knowledge of when do I pick up the phone to the agency, or whatever it is, you know, or how far can we go in-house before we then need to need to do that, rather than the how do I create an attribute again, or that that element of kind of not just, it's not just time wasted as far as, you know, you obviously you're going to have to, you know, you have to pay for time for the agency to investigate it, but it's also, you know, obviously the time wasted in the lead time between asking for a resolution and getting a response. So there's lots of benefits in even just pursuing that just as a aspiration, even if you don't end up going for the exam itself.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of training courses that lead down that path to make that better. So there's the advanced sales and marketing, there's the catalog management, there is a page builder course. There's a lot more to it than just that certification. So
Hmm.
looking at that catalog of courses that Adobe offers is another great way to get some really good value out of what Magento can do for you.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right, so I know from the developer side, one of the things that they've done is that they made, let's just say they pushed them up market a little bit. So the Magento Associate Developer is now the Adobe Certified Professional Magento Commerce Developer, and
It's easy.
the yeah, go ahead, yeah.
It's easy. So yeah.
And
Yeah.
the old Magento Professional Developer is now Adobe Certified Expert Magento Commerce Developer. So, I mean, I guess as the acquisition has happened, you now get a job boost because you've gone from an associate to professional, right? And as a professional, you've gone to an expert. Um, and so
Yeah.
we are gonna talk a little bit about the next one, which is the Certified Master Magento Commerce Architect,
Yeah.
which sounds really fantastic. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that should be something I should get, because that seems like an architect would be the type of that should be the one that's above the business practitioner in my view,
Hmm.
not a master coder.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of seems like that's the, yeah, that's like, you know, yeah, I, 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 I'm an architect, so I've kind of like got the vision. And actually it's more than that, isn't it? It's the, well, it's developer plus basically. So, but my confusion on that though, when I first saw that, was that, well, that's a Magento master. And you know, and obviously we've had Magento masters. You're a Magento master, VJ's a Magento master, and that's coming to not your the that isn't going to be used anymore, but now it is being used, and now a Magento master is a architect.
Yeah, it does lead to quite a bit of confusion.
Hmm.
And I would hope that they would have another sort of certification above the business practitioner, which should be titled Magento Commerce Architect. And I think in general, most e-commerce would have an architect that maybe isn't a developer, or at least does some development but doesn't do the
Doesn't
degree of
need to be.
development that
Yeah.
Professional Plus would do.
Yeah, yeah, it does seem really odd, that, because yeah, it's but I'm sure there was a lot of thought went into it, but yeah, it's implying like a management role rather than an expert developer role, which is what that qualification is. But yeah.
Yeah, so they also have Adobe Certified Expert Magento Commerce Front-End Developer, which was the old front-end developer. That's pretty straightforward. They had talked about doing an associate level of front-end, but I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. And
Feels like
then,
it's
of
sort of.
course, the Adobe Certified Expert Magento Commerce Cloud is the old Magento Cloud developer. And I think that that's a little bit confusing as well, because I think the Magento Cloud is more about DevOps than development. But I guess you need some development background in that to know that. But I
Yeah,
think the other,
when we have inquiries about Magento Cloud, it tends to be people companies wanting to know how they set up instances, how they. It's not normally about development. So you're right. there, I think that there's almost like an opportunity there to have a version of that that's maybe just a shorter version that just deals with that aspect of it and doesn't touch the development side. But
Right.
actually, you mentioned about the associate front end, and I think they wanted to do an equivalent for the solution specialists as well, where they had an associate solution specialist, which I think as well that's obviously been either put on a back burner or shelved.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think you're right. Um, there's a couple of them that I think are going to be deprecated because the fact that, well, I think number one, Magento is going to go headless, and the JavaScript exam is going to become redundant because it's going to be done in React or Vue or some other front end language that doesn't have anything to do with the JavaScript exam. That's also a little bit confusing. And then there is an order management exam that is probably really focused on a few people that would need to do anything in order management.
yeah.
But I think, to be honest, those just came through because they were already done as exams and done as certifications.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably true. I can't imagine the demand's massive for those at the moment.
So where do we find all these? You can go to learning.adobe.com and it's certification.html, and then just click on the Adobe Magento Commerce section. You can see those certifications, and those leads you to the exam that you could take. And both Deryck and I have been involved in helping to write content, or involved in helping with the content for some of these exams, and helping in keeping it updated. Even there's been a group of Magento people in the community that have been involved in that have helped make those exams what they are. And I know Peter Manichek was very influential in making sure that the exams were very high quality and high caliber.